right? It's fairly easy to do.
Yeah. We talked with, and I reference this talk a lot, Sarav, who talked to us about putting an open source pipeline together. And he was saying, it's fairly trivial when you put all these pieces together, but the real hard part comes in when you're starting to talk with security and you're saying, who's in control of the patches of this whole thing? Who's going to work on the updates? Who's going to work on everything that is behind this trivial piece of Frankenstein pipeline? So I think that's kind of what you're hinting at.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what it is. So like, I think the first question you need to answer is this the place where I'm adding the most value? Because then there's math to be done. Even if the answer is yes, you still need to go, because you don't even need to do this calculation if that's not where you're adding the most value. Like, if you're sitting there being like piecing together, Kubeflow with an open source tool, another tool with getting a Kubernetes cluster up and running versus, putting models in containers and pushing them to a Flask app. Like, if that is not where you're bringing value, like, you shouldn't even be having this conversation or the math, right? Like, immediately you can say, that's not where I bring value, right? Like, if you're sitting there being like, my value is training models, then that's what you should be focused on. Now, let's say that for XYZ reason, you're in an organization where you really think you have to build out the platform. And we've seen this. We've talked to multiple companies, including, the Ubers, the Twitters, they've built out really complex internal ML platforms. And the one constant that you see there is that the investment gets bigger and bigger every year, right? So if you go back and you look at the history of Michelangelo a little bit at Uber, it was TensorFlow only, right, for a bit. And they were like, okay, yeah, if you're going to do anything in ML, you're going to use it in TensorFlow and you're going to build blah, blah. Well, happens to be that 18 months later, that's not acceptable anymore. Like, you need to go add this, you need to go add that. And that's fine. But like, the journey, like, build is a journey. It's not a decision that you make. At one point in time, you can make a decision, but like, most people are completely ignoring. So I totally agree with, sorry, I forgot the name of the person you said, but like, I totally agree with like the assessment there, which is, you make a decision at one point in time of like, okay, if I build it, I'm going to get to this. But then like, the part that's ignored is, does this evolve? Is this multiple use cases? Is this going to actually be reusable? Because even in the world of, the use case we see the most is there's a recipe. Hey, when you want to productionize a model, follow this recipe. Go containerize it this way, go call this person to go do this, blah, blah, like, and get an API and run it. What happens when you have hundreds of these models running? How do you control them? How do you observe what's going on there? How do you start keeping track of what's being done across the organization? Like, the knowledge sharing that is built into this gets lost. And so now you're like, oh, well, we'll go build that. Let's go build a catalog for them. Let's go build versioning for them. Let's go build more utility. Let's go build is an expensive proposition because time, where potentially it's not the time that you're spending on the most valuable thing that you should be doing, which is, and B, how do you, there's risk. Like, you might get there or not. You might get, the rug pulled from under you from your, your business. Hey, we don't want to invest anymore. I need 40 engineers to build a platform and maintain it for the next 5 years. Is that going to be a yes?
Yeah, it